G'day and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to talk you through 3 really helpful running related strength exercises that will help improve your running performance, but also help to decrease some of the more common running related injuries, or at least your risk of those injuries. And the reason being is that we're going to cover exercises that go through the calf and calf strength, glute strength and trunk strength or core strength. And when we're looking at good running technique, or we're looking at common running related injuries, those 3 areas can be areas that conspire against you to create a whole range of issues, like I said, whether it's decreased running performance or increased fatigue, or whether it's an ankle issue or a knee issue or a quad issue or a calf issue or a glute issue, or even just some low back pain. So these 3 exercises are obviously not exhaustive, but they're 3 really common areas that we try and strengthen when trying to improve everything running related. So before we get to those, obviously, if you could leave a comment down below, let us know what you're dealing with your running. Do you just want to get faster? Do you want to just get stronger so that your running improves overall? Or is there a specific running related injury that you're trying to get through or get over? And if you let us know down in the comments, then obviously if enough people comment on those types of injuries, we want to make sure that we create a video on that as well. So if you want a chance to have your issues sort of addressed on camera, then let us know down in the comments below. And then if you go on to enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. If you enjoy this type of content, if you find this useful, obviously it's a great way to have this sent to you directly or be alerted when we post. So please consider doing that. So without further ado, the first exercise that we want to go through basically is a glute strength exercise. And we're going to do what's called a clam exercise or a hip external rotation exercise. Now the reason why we want to do this and the reason why this is so important is that when we run, essentially good running technique is bouncing from a single leg squat to a single leg squat. And one of the common movement dysfunctions that we see when someone runs is that either the foot's turning out or the knee's caving in. We get this sort of valgus translation of the knee, which essentially rotates the whole leg inwards. There's a few factors that cause that, but one of the main ones is that those glutes, those external rotators, aren't able to hold you in that externally rotated position when you contact the ground, and that knee wants to cave in and that entire leg wants to cave in. And again, that collapses your arch, as you can see hopefully. It changes the way you load your Achilles, it changes the way you load your knee, it changes the way you load your hip and your lower back. So being able to land on the ground in an externally rotated position and not dump inwards is a really strong advantage for anyone trying to get faster and more efficient, but also obviously decrease the risk of those injuries. So the way that we want to do this basically is we want to get you to lie down on your side. Now obviously you can do this straight on the ground, you can do this on a bed, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Now the way that I like to do this basically is you obviously want to be relatively on your side, but I ask my patients to be a little bit further than basically straight up and down. And the reason for that is if you're rolling forward a fraction, you can start to bias the back side of your hips or the glute sort of area where those hip external rotators are. Now, if you push your fingers into your hip bone at the side, you come immediately back where your back pocket would be. This is essentially the area that we're trying to target with the clam exercise. So if we are straight up and down, essentially the line of gravity is more sort of on the bony area. But if we're rolling forward a fraction, we're actually allowing these areas to work a little bit more. By digging your fingers into those areas, we can also get some really strong biofeedback from that. Now, doing this exercise, basically, we want to have your heels together and your knees together to start with. You don't want them basically up as high as possible. You sort of want them at about a 45-degree angle of hip flexion or from sort of parallel. And then if you're rolling forward slightly, keeping those heels together, we want to get you to imagine that you're taking your top knee slightly out and up on that arc. So we're not rolling backwards, because again, by rolling backwards, we're taking all the tension or a lot of the stress out of those hip external rotators. And we're going to start to target some of those hip flexors or those hip internal rotators, which is not what we really want to do. So again, up nice and tall, a little bit further forward, dig those fingers into that spot, keeping your heels together, and then taking that knee up and down as far as you feel comfortable. Now again, we don't want you to come up so high so that you feel like you start to roll backwards. You're going to stay nice and integrated with your belly switched on. You want to make sure that you're drawing that leg up and down. And depending on what you want to go for here, I like to either do repetitions, so a set of 15, a set of 30. You can obviously wrap a band around your knees to make it harder. But what you can also do is you can also lift it up to a comfortable height and then hold that for 30 seconds, 45 seconds or a minute, and then add repetitions to that as well. Because the reason for that is sometimes it's good to mix both of them up, because obviously running is a very repetitious movement. So you need to be able to stabilize then relax, and then stabilize, and then relax as you're running. But we also need some endurance so that you can maintain that position for as long as possible throughout your run. So that is exercise number one. Some clams is a fantastic way to train that knee and train that entire leg to stay in a better position while you're running. Exercise number two, again, we're going to make it very running specific. We're going to go through a plank exercise, but we're going to use some running technique on top of that to make it more specific to running. Now, you can do this standing, leaning up against a wall or a tree potentially if you've got one, but we'll do this on the ground for the purposes of this. Now, what we want to basically do here is we want to be in a push-up position. So again, traditional planking is obviously down here. You can do this potentially, but for the purposes of this, we'll get you in this position. Like anything, we want to maintain a good posture. So when you're running, you want to be nice and tall. So make sure that your hips aren't sagging forwards. Try and create a line from your heels all the way through to the top of your head by stretching yourself outwards. And what we want to do in this position to make it running specific is we want to include some pseudo strides or some fake strides to allow you to try and brace and maintain that whilst you're moving at the same time. So again, there's a lot of different techniques out there, but one of the ones that we like to do is the pose running method. And essentially that's trying to bring your heel up to your bottom. So we want to do that in this position, really get those hips, those trunk muscles to stabilize as best as possible while you're doing that. Again, we can do this in a way that gives you some strength related to running. So make sure that you do sets of 15, sets of 20. Come back to it, you can hold that position if you want a little bit more specific strength depending on who you are and what you're looking for. Now, the third exercise that we want to go through is a calf strength related exercise. And what we're going to touch on here is we're going to do it in a way that eccentrically strengthens that calf and Achilles area. So for those who don't know, a concentric movement is where the muscle shortens under tension. But an eccentric movement, which is really important for running, is where that muscle is under tension, but it lengthens at the same time. And this is really important for running because with that pose running method, what we tend to see is when your foot connects with the ground, the heel tends to come down and tap before you run and follow through to your next stride. So what we want to do with this is standing up against a wall. I've got a tree here strategically placed. I'll get you to lean forwards a little bit, and we want to do a single leg at a time. So what I want to get you to do here is I want to get you to shift your weight across to one side, push up on one side, and come across and then come down on the other side. So essentially you're going around in a little bit of a circle or a square. We're shifting our weight, pushing up on one side, shifting across, coming down the other side, lifting up, shifting across, coming down, and obviously coming back across the other side and doing this at the same time. Now the other thing we want to get you to do here is we don't run with the legs straight, so we want to make sure that your legs are slightly bent when you land in that position. So with your knees slightly bent, leaning slightly forwards, you want to shift your body weight across, coming up, shifting back across the other direction, coming back down again as you lift your opposite leg off the ground, coming around, coming up, coming back around, coming down, shifting around. So basically going around in a circle in that position. So when you're running, you'll be able to maintain better strength and better endurance to help propel you forwards as you're running. So with those three strength exercises, hopefully you'll see that if you stick at those over time, you should definitely feel an improvement in your strength. But at the same time, you should feel like the way that you run and the way that you move is getting more efficient and getting more robust and feels more integrated together. And you'll hopefully see a decrease in the risk of a lot of those common running-related injuries, and also see an improvement in that performance overall. So if you went on to enjoy that, please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and then we'll see you in the next one.